Joe Fisher impersonation. Good morning. How's that?
Oh my God, that
Was
was
that good?
really
No,
close.
spot on.
That was
I'm pretty
really
good with my impressions. What it do? Yeah, I'm pretty good with my stuff.
Dude, you were right on the octave.
Yeah, try to be there. Ahoy! Like I've got them all down. I've got them all down pat. I got to figure out my own intro where like everybody has their thing. I don't usually get up early enough. I catch usually the last hour and a half, maybe 2 hours of Dirt and Sprague show. But
Yeah, Dirt and
do they
Sprague.
start?
So he starts with the whammy horn, the bear, 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 bear. That's how Dirt and Sprague get it going. And then
Shout out to Dirt and Sprague, man. Shout out to all of our fan hosts. We don't shout those guys out enough. They get enough love already.
I mean, I would say so. They get to host
They are
15
pretty
hours
popular.
a week,
They are
if
pretty
not
popular,
more,
aren't they?
as opposed to you and I just getting 2. But
2 hours a week. Yeah, they literally see each other all week. It's always a surprise when you and I and Joe, well, maybe not Joe, but at least
Sans
when the
Joe
three of
today.
us, Sans Joe. Yeah, if you can't tell, I am not Joe Fisher. This is Rashad Taylor. I'm here with my guy Jordan Schultz. What's going on, bro?
Bro, you fooled me. No, I'm here. I'm happy to be here up on a Sunday. It is Memorial Day weekend. I am
3-day weekend.
I don't know if I'm still liquored up from yesterday, but I'm having a good 3-day weekend.
Oh, I'm definitely still liquored up from yesterday. I'll get to that in a bit. But Joe is gone again. I don't know where he is. That dude's a slacker, man. Does he ever work?
Yes, he does work. I see him making calls constantly while he's here when I'm checking in during the week. But I believe he's camping out where I got married, either near Hood River or like in Cascade Locks near Hood River. I can't quite remember exactly, but he's out camping, or I don't know. I'd have to be glamping.
He said it was supposed to be like, I think he said it was supposed to be like 55 degrees when he was going camping.
It's not camping.
Something terrible. So hopefully he's enjoying himself out there, and hopefully you're enjoying yourself on this Memorial Day weekend. Are you a grill guy? Do you grill?
Oh my gosh, I'm a griller. I'm a smoker. We got like the cheapest smoker from Walmart.
Does it work?
Yeah, $125. It
Get
does
out
the
of here.
job.
Yeah, I don't care anything about that. I still have just the red grill that folds and everything like that. Listen, if you know how to grill, it doesn't matter what you're cooking on.
Well, you've got to get like used to a certain grill. You can't just like, this one doesn't work. 6 months later, try to go buy another $150 one at Home Depot or whatever. You've got to find the hot spots. You've really got to get into, like your stove or your grill. And
you really got to be in your bag
when
you're grilling. Like, what's your go-to meat of choice? Whoa. I mean, what's your go-to?
I'm gonna let that breathe.
Yeah.
That was a drop.
Yeah. Just don't. Let's not be immature today, right? But what's your go-to?
My go-to is probably just hamburgers or steak. That's usually. I love to do a good cheeseburger. Just we do the white American cheese, the Boar's Head white American cheese from Fred Meyer. So we have that for our sandwiches to throw a couple slices on a nice burger. Oh my God, that's probably my go-to, my easiest. I
don't know. I'm good on the grill, but I'm not great yet. I'm still working on getting great. Food's gonna be good.
Yeah.
But for me, I think for any person that cooks their own food for the most part, it's probably like, it doesn't taste as good as I want it to. Still good, still very good, but
I'm not like that TikToker.
Could have used more ginger, or could have used more salt, or whatever the case is. So
doesn't look as good as like the restaurant or like Salt Bay on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I heard that restaurant is awful. I'm sure Salt Bay's not the one back there.
Well, he overcharges first. I mean, anything where you're going to basically pay for the novelty of being there as opposed to like the experience, like in this case, like good tasting food, I'm good.
Yeah, I definitely feel you, man. But you said you were kind of potentially still liquored up from last night. I'm not saying I am, not anymore, but I'm not going to say this morning wasn't difficult. Just seriously, like,
played a little hurt today, Rashad.
So last night was my bachelor party, right? Shout out to all my guys that were able to kind of make it out for the night.
Yeah, Rashad Taylor is a week away from getting married.
6 days, man.
6 days, not even a week. 6 days.
Crazy,
the countdown
right?
has begun.
Crazy, man. So went out last night, went a few places, had a few drinks, and lots of people buying said drinks. Even a nice bartender just gave me like it looked like a triple shot of Crown Royal. I was like, thank you.
Hell yeah.
I appreciate it. But it was a good night, but it was a sluggish few minutes, this morning. But get some water, get a couple 200 milligram ibuprofens.
Opening the eyes, you're just like, oh no. Like,
Yeah.
am I actually like sure that I have to be up right now? Okay, I
Yeah.
am. Damn it.
And when you're if you're really feeling it like that, you've been drinking that much. When you start to feel like, oh no, like maybe a small headache, like in the back of your head, or
Yep.
it's like, oh, here we go.
That crawling feeling. Well,
you're-
and have you ever woken up and then like felt okay, and you go grab some breakfast or whatever, then 2 hours later the hangover sets
Just
in.
wait a minute.
It's
Yeah,
like,
sit down.
false start.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta go back to bed, honey. I'm sorry. That happened in college. Like we were all going out, like peak Corvallis, like OSU partying one Saturday morning. We wake up, we stumble down to Qdoba in downtown Corvallis, and then walk back to my buddy's house. And there's probably 12, 14 of us, and shoot, it's 10, 11, and they're talking about getting going again, like having some more beers, pull out the Bud Light Limes, and I'm just like, hold on a second. I think I gotta go lay down.
Yeah.
I feel like ass.
No, it's one of those things, man. And so I was starting to feel that a little bit. Again, some ibuprofen, some water.
Yeah.
All good, man. So here we
good.
go on the fan. And make sure you interact with us on the Vancouver Ford text line. All texts to the fan are via the Vancouver Ford text line. Your dollar goes further at Vancouver Ford. They treat you right before, during, and after the sale. Visit VancouverFord.com. 503-864-6FAN. That's 503-864-6326.
I was thinking, Rashad, as far as being hungover, it made me think of my own wedding. So my wedding was in Hood River in 95-degree weather, right? And I know that you're getting married next week. And thankfully, I think that's a day or two before we start to get like the 85, 90-degree, just blast from the sun. So you're lucky. Because I'll tell you what, man, as much drinking as I did on that day, it probably took me till 9 or 10 p.m. to actually start to feel it. Because, I just felt like I was sweating it out, like water, continuously,
oh, yeah.
It was not actually doing anything for me throughout the day.
And I'll be real, I'm not one of those, I can't be peer pressured into drinking.
Okay.
Like,
it's got to be chill. It's gotta be a
so
good
how
situation.
people, for a birthday or for any important day that you're having and people are buying drinks.
Yeah.
Like I'm cool right now. Like I'm gonna babysit this water or something. Like I don't go overboard now, especially now that I'm older. Like, no, I have nothing to prove to anybody about how much I can drink or being a party animal. Now maybe one or two shots gets me kind of like, oh man,
yeah,
that was good. It's kind of lay back and start chilling. So, but yeah, it was a good time. So I'm having a good time too this morning, man, being with my guy. It's a Schultze and Shot edition of Sports Sunday. Man, I feel like there's a lot of sports to talk about, but not really.
I mean,
yes.
There's so much going on, like, in the world of sports, but then, like, as far as the games go, we're in the playoffs, so there's not as many games. It's like that weird time of year. We're waiting for the NBA draft after the NFL draft.
I am glad they were at least getting playoff games every other day, at least for now.
I do like that.
There was that point to where we would wait in, like, 2 days in between games to be able to get stuff, but now you're seeing teams play every other day so far in the conference finals.
Took them 15 years to fix that, but they fixed it. They got there.
They're always a little slow with sports. And
speaking of slow, maybe the NCAA a little
NCAA,
slow with their
so
monies this week.
Oh yeah, there's some historic news coming out of the NCAA, man. That's really going to change the way we view sports and view athletes. Amateurism is dead, and we'll talk about that in the second hour. We're also going to talk about these conference finals, man. We have to, meltdown after meltdown after meltdown, both series. Last night we saw one for the Boston Celtics. They go up 3-0 from the Indiana Pacers as the Celtics go up 3-0 in their respective series. We also saw the Timberwolves kind of melt down not once but twice in the Western Conference Finals at home. We'll talk about that. And also, I'd love to know, who you think some of the best and worst players in these playoffs have been. There's some guys that have completely stepped out of the shadows of other players, and other guys that have kind of, become introverts a little bit on the court when it comes to the playoffs. So we'll talk about that. Make sure you interact with us on the Vancouver Ford text line and let us know who you believe the best and some of the worst players have been, or maybe some of the most overrated players, have been so far in these playoffs. I have my own short list. It's not a whole lot of things, but yeah, man, I've been excited for these playoffs only because we're going to see a new champion. That's cool. I mean, the Celtics, of course, the franchise is not new to winning championships. However, this regime, this coach, they've never won, anything. So
It's been a near 20-year gap, right?
yeah, 2008 was a long time ago.
Yeah, 16, 17 years,
Yeah,
baby.
so it was a long time ago since the last time the Celtics won, but they're on the verge of doing that. And you know, this year these playoffs have been cool, and I know we've talked a lot about the fact that all of the quote unquote faces of the NBA, none of them are represented in these playoffs moving forward. LeBron was gone in the first round. Now Jokic is out. There's no KD. There's no Steph. All the players that have. There's no Dame. There's no Giannis.
Celtics fans want to fight you right now, saying Tatum is not a face of the NBA.
Tatum
Tell you
is
what,
not.
bro.
And we'll talk about.
I agree with that, but
Yeah.
I hear the screams coming from the back of my headphones.
Hey, well, they just gonna have to scream, and you might have to turn down your headphones because I've got my own feelings about Jason Tatum, like I think most people do, and I think it's time that we come to a certain realization when it comes to Jason Tatum. And man, this Celtics team is very good, though. They are very deep. They still have pieces that are missing at this point, and they're still able to do what they're able to do. What would they be doing if Porzingis was actually on the floor for them right now?
That's true.
Things would probably be very, very different. Like I'm talking massive blowouts if that was the case. And so, what do you say we get into that though?
Yeah, Celtics start
All right.
off game three last night.
So game 3 last night,
Pacers.
Celtics go up 3-0 against the Pacers. Let's talk a little bit about that right here. Sports Sunday on the Fan.
Laurelhurst Market Steakhouse.
Coming up. You just rolling down the street. It's like, I could probably listen to this all night long.
Absolutely, man. Pac is the GOAT. But right now, last night, Jason Tatum, he kind of looked like the GOAT too. Had an amazing game for these Celtics, man. 36 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, couple blocks, and a steal. Jason Tatum was 5 for 11 from the field. Was just the monster that I think a lot of people expect him to be. He's been up and down this year, and it's weird to say that about a guy who plays on the team with the best record in the league, right? It's weird to say that about a guy, but people because people tend to knock on Jason Tatum a lot, and I'm one of those people at times. I feel like when they are in those losing moments for the Celtics, sometimes he kind of crumbles, right? He falls apart. Like
usually.
But here's the rub to it. He's not usually losing. And so
fair.
you kind of take the good with the bad type thing. Like, yes, if he's losing a game, there's a good chance that he might do something dumb in the end and help the team lose officially. But they're usually up and they're usually winning. But last night was one of those nights to where I would have to eat crow because the Celtics were down for most of that game. And then here they come in the fourth quarter and they turn things around. This team, everybody really put a lot of stock. We've been disrespecting the Celtics. Let's go ahead and let's start there. We've been disrespecting the Celtics for a little bit, whether it's Jason Tatum, whether it's Jaylen Brown can't go left, or Drew Holiday can't shoot. Whatever the case is, there's always a reason. Joe Mazzulla isn't great with X's and O's, and he's not the leader that they need. Whatever the case is, there are a lot of storylines to go into why people think the Celtics haven't been great. And for the whole season, name a better, more consistent team than the Celtics.
I mean, for the first half, it was the Bucks, and they fired Adrian Griffin. And I have to say, since the trade deadline or just before then,
but even the Bucks were behind the Celtics at that point, right? As far as their record was concerned, even the Bucks weren't as good as the Celtics
just
at
consistently
that point.
winning.
Yeah, but
the Bucks were up
consistently
there.
winning. And
I guess the Lakers won the in-season tournament, so
they did, and they were a play-in team, right?
No, but nobody else has been a bastion of like winning day in and day out like the Celtics this year. You make a great point.
No, they haven't. And so last night they did what a championship team is supposed to do. They're down. Fourth quarter comes, and here they come. Derek White, man, is one of those guys that you hate playing against, but you love to play with. Like, this whole team has a bunch of those guys. Drew Holiday is another one of those dudes. You don't want to see him across the floor from you. Last night, Drew Holiday, 14 points, 9 rebounds, 3 steals. He's somebody that's he changed really the identity of the Celtics team when he came this season. And Indiana just didn't have enough, especially without Halliburton, with him on the bench in street clothes. Indiana just didn't have enough tonight. I'm curious to know from you, Jordan.
Yeah.
Does Indiana get a game? Especially without Halliburton, if he's really nursing that hamstring.
I mean, with no Halliburton, probably not. There's really no chance that the Pacers, who already with Halliburton dropped game one, and I'll get into that in a second, but ultimately, no, the Celtics have been pretty good at the right time of the year, right? And you're looking at how they're doing it. Thankfully, it's mostly their starters playing all the minutes, and you got a couple of guys basically giving them a spell off the bench at this point. You're not having to depend on 2 threes from Peyton Pritchard. You're not having to depend on Sam Hauser grabbing key rebounds. And once again, you're doing it all without Kristaps Porzingis, and that is because, thankfully, you have other guys like Derek White. I call him Snaggletooth, but yes, Derek White is a really good player, stepping up for the Celtics different times. Drew Holiday, finally, in these Eastern Conference Finals, seems to be more like every game actually getting some points for them, which... yeah, from the point guard position, like, you do need to score. In today's NBA, you've got to score. When the Celtics weren't getting any production from him, I get you got your 3 guys in Tatum, White, and Brown that are going to get your points, but you got to get some production from Drew Holiday. So the fact that he's offering that, I feel like that is able to spell the Celtics, from coming off the bench and having to make up for that.
And also, man, old man Horford.
Thank you. Exactly what I was just getting to. Yeah.
Hasn't been necessarily amazing so far in these playoffs. But last night he was great.
He was old vintage Horford.
He hit everything that he was supposed to hit. Game 1 he had 15.
I think his 7 threes were the most that he's ever hit in any NBA game, and he's what, 38?
Yeah, he couldn't miss last night.
So good.
Al Horford really helped push this Celtics team, across the finish line last night. Well, I don't know why people keep leaving him open. Like, on that switch, for whatever reason,
it's because
they never stay with him. It's like he can shoot, though, and if he's wide open, he's going to pull that, and it's going to be water. But for whatever reason, same play, that pick comes, they both follow the ball handler, leave him wide open at the top of the key. What are we doing?
It's because you've got to pick your poison. It's like when Dame and CJ were both on in a game, and I am not comparing R2 small guard lineup that was literally peak Portland Trailblazers to the championship contending Boston Celtics. What I'm trying to do is take an example that local fans would understand. Seeing Dame and CJ on one night at the same time, essentially the defense has to pick their poison. So they're going to try to defend Dame. They've got to choose in that situation. So they're probably going to let CJ drift a little and let him shoot the ball. And in this case, if I'm the defense, Rashad, I'm always letting Al Horford shoot the ball. I'm not ever going to try to let Jason Tatum get to the hole. I don't want Jaylen Brown to finish like he's so good at. So no, you let Al Horford essentially do what he did. If Al Horford beats you, I would say Rick Carlisle's going to the end of the night back to his assistant coaches and be like, guys, like we literally put their worst player up shooting open every time. And that's what happened to us. And it's just something that, without Tyrese Halliburton, gosh, they almost got a win. But the Boston Celtics were better even without one of their starters. And it's because they have more of a complete team that is playing at peak at the right time of the year, Rashad. It's awesome.
No, and this is exactly, they're peaking at the right time. And sometimes I kind of feel like I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I can't remember which game we were talking about, but there was an injury to a major player. Forgive me, I can't remember who we were watching. And the fact
talking about Jalen Brunson and the Knicks, maybe?
Yeah, was it Jalen Brunson?
Broke his wrist.
It might have been. Honestly, I can't remember.
The Knicks series, yeah.
But the argument was like, if a team doesn't have their best player, you should be able to. That should be a win. And sometimes it doesn't work like that. Only because sometimes you don't game plan for the number 2 or number 3. Like, you were going out there to make sure you could stop a Jalen Brunson, a Siakam, fill-in player here, right? So sometimes those other players that you're not really looking at and thinking about, they end up beating you. Nembhard last night, Andrew Nembhard, for me, we're going to talk about the best and worst players in the playoffs so far. He's been one of the best.
Yeah, definitely a coming out party for him.
He's really had a true coming out party, and last night in a loss, he was as good as he'll probably ever be in this league. But we've also seen stars made in these playoffs. Nobody knew about a dude named Jalen Brunson who played for Dallas, who just happened to be alongside of Luka at that point. Nobody knew anything about him, and then within a year, he became a star. We might be watching a star in the making with Andrew Nembhard, man. Like, just looking at the way he played, 32 points last night, 9 assists, 4 for 7 from 3. He hit everything, 12 for 21 from the field on the night. He really stepped up in Halliburton's absence, but I just don't think the Pacers have enough to keep up with this Celtics team.
No, it kind of reminds me of, like, when you have a big star go down, you always basically draw the plays up for the next best scorer on your team, and that in this case was Andrew Nembhard. I'm surprised, you need Nesmith hitting a couple of more shots, but he really didn't take many last night. I guess they just really they had a flow in the offense, and they didn't really give it to the guys that weren't really flowing in that, which that was Nesmith, which that was Toppin. It was basically Nembhard and Turner and Siakam are bust, which is fine. But, excuse me, I did forget TJ McConnell. Like, he did basically come off the bench. I think they probably should have started him instead of Ben Shepherd, because he ended up just finishing the game and playing a lot better for him. Shepherd, essentially, I don't think he hit a shot. I'm not looking at the box score, but, like, you talk about guys making impact plays throughout the series. Like, Ben Shepherd came up big, hitting a bunch of shots, like, for the Pacers in the last semifinal series. Now it seems like, in the moment where he's forced to perform, you get nothing from him.
No, he gave you absolutely nothing last night. His plus minus was -8.
Oh, that's terrible.
0 points, 1 steal, 1 assist, 3 rebounds. So that's good for 0 for 4 from the field. I guess the only concern I would have if you did start TJ McConnell is you'll have 2 really small guards in the backcourt. Like, I think that would probably be the biggest knock on you at this point, because the Celtics, being a lot bigger than you, they are taking advantage, and they're really going for it. You look at their starters and how many minutes they played. Like, nobody's playing 32 minutes. Jaylen Brown 38 minutes, Derek White 35, Holiday 38. Jason Tatum played 44 minutes yesterday.
They're just leaning on their guys like they should.
Let's just go ahead and lean on our starters, because they're not good enough to stop us. And we thought that there was a chance last night that Indiana could pull it out. And unfortunately, without Halliburton, and who knows, they only won by 3. So with Halliburton, maybe they win that game. You never really know. But either way, the Celtics are in a commanding position, up 3-0, looking at an opportunity to go back to the NBA Finals and hopefully take home the 18th banner for the Celtics. Would it be 18 or 19? This would be 18, yeah?
Who cares? They've got a bunch. So, like, I'm not a Celtics fan. So, yeah, I think they've got almost 20, and that would be near 20. So good for them. But really, I guess the point that you really get into, Rashad, talking about the Pacers almost getting there in Game 3, but not, was that more of like a symptom of maybe a hangover from Game 1 when they gave up that 5-point lead? Because can we just talk for a second about how Indiana really did? They had the start of this series.
Yeah.
You know, with Halliburton on the floor, 5 points up, under 20 seconds to go in Game 1, 2 turnovers.
Not fouling at the end.
Yeah, and not fouling, up by 3. And you allow one of their best shooters to shoot a 3 to take you to overtime. Yeah, Carlisle said that was on him, but we got to highlight, the Pacers, they're almost there in Game 3. They had it in Game 1, and then one of their best players goes down with injury, so now basically a bench player steps up, offers you nothing, and this is what happens. You had it in your grasp. And even without Halliburton yesterday, I do feel like if they won Game 1, it would have been a different story. Momentum is huge at this point in the playoffs, and I just mentioned how Boston's playing super well, probably best basketball of the season at the right time. And Indiana, what did Suk say this week? 250 times in the playoffs, in playoff series in NBA history, teams have been up by 3 with under 10 seconds to go, or just almost no time on the clock. And 250 times to that point, that team always won, Rashad. That is not just an epic collapse by the Indiana Pacers.
Historic.
That historically,
Yeah.
just all-time terrible.
Yeah.
And that has to be weighing on you going into Game 2 and 3.
Oh, you're definitely thinking about it at this point, and I think that might have been the issue. They couldn't get that out of their heads. Yeah, and mind you, I'm not in their locker room. We're not in their locker room. I haven't read anything to that effect, but you can see it on their face. You could see it in their expression. Like they knew that they were losing that game. They couldn't get Game 1 out of their head as far as how they lost. And sometimes those disappointing losses, it's tough to get over because the series would be very different. You still won on their home floor. Man, all you got to do is get one at home, and this is a series. And so, yeah, they've got a lot of work to do. There's never been a team to come back from 3-0. I don't think the Pacers are any exception at this point. And so, I don't want to write them off yet, but we got to remember it's been a hell of a season for the Pacers. They're probably not supposed to be here. And it's kind of poetic justice almost that Halliburton is hurt, because if you look at their route to the Eastern Conference Finals, somebody had to get hurt in every series that they played in for them to really kind of have the edge.
It's a good point.
And so now that Halliburton is down again with the hamstring, this might have been chickens coming home to roost, for this Indiana team. However, they played in the play-in, and then here they are, one of the 4 teams left in the NBA playoffs looking for an opportunity for a championship. So that's saying something about the year that they had. I don't know how Rick Carlisle didn't win Coach of the Year. He probably should have. There was a lot of chatter around the Pacers at the beginning of the season and how well they were doing. And, I'm going to tip my cap to them for a good season, because let's go ahead and be real. This series is over. And it's okay for us to say that. Like, there's a 3-0 lead. History's not on their side. There's never been a team to come back from 3-0 and win the series. So let's just go ahead and mark in the Celtics for the next round and for the NBA Finals.
I don't think anybody was beating Mark Daigneault, Coach of the Year, unfortunately.
No,
Rick Carlisle's been there before. Daigneault's kind of one of the new enough comers.
Not with this team,
of course.
So I think there's something to be said for that.
I hear you.
You can win it more than once. You can win Employee of the Month more than once, right?
Well, apparently, if you're Dwight Schrute, you can win it twice, and instead of a pay raise, you just get a plaque instead. So good for you.
Good for you. I'll take the plaque. I'll take that. Well, from one epic collapse to another, Minnesota, the team that everybody thought was going to the finals, is in a little bit of trouble. And the trouble is called Luka Doncic and the Mavericks. We'll talk about that next, but first, Jordan has sports.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
First on the Fan, the Boston Celtics getting it done on the road in the Eastern Conference Finals, getting the Game 3 win 114-111 over the Indiana Pacers, taking the 3-0 series lead in that one. Jason Tatum leading the way for Boston with 36 points, Jaylen Brown with 24, and Al Horford with 7 threes and 23 points. Moving on to the Western Conference Finals, that Game 3 set for tonight. You got the Mavericks hosting the Timberwolves, and Dallas a 2.5-point favorite, up 2-0 in that series. You can catch that tip at 5 p.m. on TNT. In baseball, the Seattle Mariners losing their second game in a row to one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball, the Washington Nationals. 3-1 the final. They're trying to salvage one today. Patrick Corbin and Brian Wu on the bump. First pitch set for 10:35 a.m. on Root Sports. You got a couple of games in progress already on the MLB scoreboard. Top three, the Tigers are leading the Blue Jays 4-0, and the Reds and Dodgers are scoreless going into the bottom of the second. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The original home of the Herd with Colin Cowherd. Weekdays 9 to noon, 1080 The Fan.
Hey, it's Zook for A&E Plumbing, Heating.
The Fan.
Oh, one of my favorites. Who you know fresher than Ho? Riddle me that. Woo-hoo! This boy was spitting on this one.
You guys got a hot playlist here on Sports Sunday, I must say. I would make no changes.
Oh man, it's years and years of, I don't know how far it goes back, or if you can tell when stuff was uploaded to Sports Sunday and Football Sunday playlist, but man, yeah, we, between me, myself, and my guy Mike Lynch and Joe, yeah, there's been some cuts in between there.
There's some timeless stuff, man. Just sometimes you put something on, and you, we don't all like the same stuff, but you personally will just never, ever want to turn that off and always feel like you're 16. You know? We're like, hey, for me, like, back in the day, any kind of Frank Sinatra stuff, I could go on, but I won't. I'm not gonna list 30 different bands that I like. So,
oh man, we can do that for another. If we had a club right?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
have
like a
club hour.
Sunday club hour.
Yeah, we have a club hour, then we can do all that stuff. But we don't, so we can't, and we got to keep it kind of sports-ish. But
Hey, some congrats coming in, by the way, on the Vancouver Ford text line for you for getting
oh,
married next
thank
weekend.
thank you so much. Appreciate you. Appreciate the listeners out there, all the P1s, man. Shout out to all you guys, man. Like the regulars, you know, you're the real MVPs here. So, but thank you very much, man.
Yeah. Another text says, don't put too much pressure on yourself with grilling. If you pull it on and then take it off, or you put it on then take it off and it tastes good, that's a win. So
100%, 100%. Yeah, and I think it's only certain stuff. Like I'm scared to do like a brisket. I'm just nervous about it because
I understand.
I don't want to overcook it. I don't want to, you know, if you overcook brisket even a little bit, just the slightest bit, it's just
Dries it out.
It's just dry.
Well, when you've got big hunks of meat like that are kind of expensive, and you want like a brisket or a prime rib, it's like $80 plus.
That's what I'm saying. That's an expensive piece of meat to be able to mess up.
Well,
So,
and that usually means you're feeding a large group of people. So
Right.
there's like 2 times the pressure because you're trying to get a good expensive food to taste good, cooked right. Also, you want everybody there to be able to eat.
Absolutely.
God. I've actually got a horror story about that.
Oh, okay.
Really quickly.
We got time, bro. We got another hour and a half.
This was not me, thank God. I actually, I became the hero at the end of this story, but it was 3 years ago for Christmas. Every Christmas Eve, my grandma hosts the family at her house, and we do like kind of a white elephant. My aunts and uncles come over, and all of us here in the close family, there's probably 15 of us or less, and we all usually congregate on Christmas Eve and open presents, white elephant, and have a nice big dinner. That's kind of our celebration is Christmas Eve. Like in the evening, we have some drinks. Prime rib is our meat of choice for that dinner.
Absolutely.
Always.
That's a Christmas meal.
Right, exactly. So that's kind of, it's in the last 10, 15 years, it's just go-to is prime rib. My grandpa, rest in peace, love you, Papa. He was the one that handled the prime rib, forever, right? But obviously not here to do that anymore, so my Uncle David takes up the mantle. And oh my God, my uncle screwed that prime rib up so bad. I don't know what he did, Rashad. He said he left it in for like 18 hours. The smoker must not have been on because that thing was blue. That thing was so raw, it was not ready to eat. We had to order pizza.
Ugh.
It was terrible. And dinner for that Christmas Eve was ruined. And so I took up the mantle myself, and I said, all right, I promise I'm going to handle this next year. We're going to get it done. And everybody 12 months later said it was the best prime rib they'd ever eaten. So mad props to
Yeah,
myself. I was able to
absolutely. Good job.
Thanks, man. The maple
job.
bourbon seasoning bark that I got on that gave
That's
it
the
some
important
flavor.
part. That bark has to be,
Yeah.
at first my lady one time saw it, it's like, why is it burnt? I was like, girl, that is not, it's supposed to be there. That's bark, baby. That's the best part.
That's
So,
the flavor, babe.
Yeah. But so I'm a little nervous about it. And also, man, shout out to Jake the Hater. Thank you so much. It says here on the YouTube. I keep forgetting we're on YouTube.
Yeah, we're on YouTube.
I always forget that.
1080
man.
AM The Fan.
Always, because I never have like a YouTube screen to look at, or I never pull it up. I always forget it. How's my hair?
Your hair's looking good, bro.
Is it good?
No, I'm telling you, like last week, like you're bringing that vibe back. You've got like that perfect Scottie Pippen, like trimmed look. I thought that was so clean. I thought that he had
I was going more Kobe in 99, but okay, I'll take Scottie.
Honestly,
Pippen.
I don't remember what Kobe looked like from
Kobe
99,
fro.
so I apologize.
Yeah, the Kobe fro. Yeah,
The Kobe fro.
Absolutely.
Oh, you're talking like okay, he had that to like 03, 04, 05. That
Yeah.
it was a little bigger than yours though, right? Like
it
it was
a little bit.
had like another.
Actually, you wouldn't know it. So I do a thing. I
Yeah.
like sponge my hair, right?
Okay.
So I take it and I have this little thing that I put on my hair to make sure that it can kind of give this almost curly kind of different look to it, right? If I were to comb my hair out,
Mhm.
it's a pretty significant size fro. And
Hell yeah.
So I like to kind of sponge it. Jake the Hater, man, he's chiming in here on the YouTube. I keep forgetting this fool's I think this fool's a chef or something now. And I follow him on social. So
Jake
I'm-
the Hater wants me to get naked, which is
Whoa.
not going to happen. I
Whoa.
mean, we're gonna have to get me severely drunk.
we could really start a thing with you being like the shirtless producer guy.
No,
you-
that's like if all right, we hire Schulte to do a show on 1080
No
The
shirt
Fan.
Schulte?
It might be like one day on that, or just like one segment I'll do, as a celebration. I'll do no shirt for Jake the Hater. But that's gonna be like 15 minutes and then the shirt's back on.
Whoa.
So.
That's weird. But okay, well, do your thing. I think you can get a lot of attention if you go ahead and just, have your shirt off, and everybody's gonna be like, "Do you see that one guy that's on the radio with the shirt?"
See,
Yeah,
look
I'm
at
sure
those
it'll work.
nipples.
Yeah,
God.
I'm sure it'll work. So, well, we're gonna talk Timberwolves and
Yeah, we got a few minutes.
and Dallas. So we've got to go. We can do that to end the hour and everything. But man, now I want some barbecue, bro. Like we just
That
brought
gets you
that back
hungry?
up. Now all of a sudden, like there are a few places I've been. Because barbecue's really easy to mess up. Really,
Mhm.
really easy to mess up. And so there are a few places that we've been locally. I'm not going to say their names because I don't want them to lose any.
Oh, like you're talking like not just like backyard barbecue, but like a establishment serving terrible barbecue.
Yes.
Oh God,
Yes.
that's
Like
not good.
yeah, it's not, but again, somebody likes it because they're still open. And so somebody goes there and they want that dry ass brisket
Well,
or
so-
them tough ass ribs.
Some
I'm
people
not one
like
of them.
bust their taste buds so bad that they can only like anything that's burnt. That's the only they can eat. So maybe they like that.
I guess, man. I guess. Well, what somebody doesn't like is losing the way the Minnesota Timberwolves have been losing. They've become America's darlings over the last, let's say, 4 weeks,
Yeah,
6 weeks,
month or
something
so.
like that.
He is him, and Ant is the new Michael Jordan, which is true. However,
that's what they're saying. However, he hasn't been so Air Jordan-esque over the last few games, and it's really cost them. And so we'll talk about that next, right here, Sports Sunday on the Fan.
Did you know the law requires insurance companies
Man, playoff basketball can break your heart. And I think the hearts of a lot of fans around, have been kind of broken over the last little bit because their new hero, Anthony Edwards, isn't been so heroic over the last little bit. The Timberwolves lost game 2, 109-108 to the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic, oh my God. Oh my God. I can't tell you how many times I watched Luka and all I can say is, damn. He's one of those guys that doesn't leave you with much to say. But he made it again. He pulls up like Luka is Jokic in the sense that almost everything goes in. If he's by the rim, it's going in. If he pulls up for 3 and he's open-ish, it's probably going in. It's almost frustrating because basketball is like we live in this era to where you have to be tall and athletic and you've got to be speedy and you got to have crazy handle and Luka's 6'8", so he's tall, but he's not fast. He's not like super, super quick.
He's considered chubby, and I can
He's
say
kind
that
of like,
because I am chubby.
and it's crazy. He's kind of chubby, but he's not but he looks like he's a little burlier than most other.
He doesn't have
players.
strong-looking arms. He's got the chubby dude arm. That's kind of like Jokic.
And kind of like Jokic, kind of like James Harden. These guys that just they don't look like they're in basketball shape.
Yeah.
But yet they get out there, and there's not a soul that can stop them. And Luka Doncic, I think, really put a stamp on the fact that he is indeed the best player in the NBA.
You're talking about that go-ahead shot on Friday night with,
that was
3 seconds to go?
That was absolutely brilliant. And I wanted I haven't been shy about saying I want the Timberwolves to win.
Okay.
I love Ant. I'm not like everybody else. I like Cat. I like this team. I would really like to see them. Not a fan of Gobert, but it's not the COVID stuff. It's just I think he can be kind of soft.
Maybe
sometimes.
a little overpaid for what he offered.
A little bit, but although he did
Defensive
have
Player of the Year.
He did. Yeah. But he did have a great game. He had 10 boards, 16 points, 6 for 10 from the field. So it's not like he didn't do his job the other night.
Well, he showed up and he didn't skip it for the birth of his kid.
But I think that shot kind of soured a lot of more people on Gobert because how are you the Defensive Player of the Year and you couldn't defend better than that? Now, mind you, he's not an on-ball defender. He's definitely not going to be defending guys that are considered quicker than him or faster than him. But you would think to be Defensive Player of the Year, you can play some on-ball defense. Just a little. You have the longest arms, some of the longest arms in the NBA. That shot should have been much tougher for Luka to make than it actually was. That's just me. Now, mind you, when that switch came and Luka ended up with Gobert, he smiled. He knew what it was. And then he told the world he knew what he was when he said, "You can't effing guard me." And the camera caught it perfectly. We could all see Luka's face, and he didn't say it in Slovenian. He didn't say it. You can't effing guard me. Stop it.
Who can?
No one can.
Yeah.
You got 2 of the most unguardable guys in the NBA, arguably in the NBA's history, with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving.
Well, and you wonder, too, if that was one of the reasons why they gave Luka a little space, because Kyrie Irving was shooting, I think, almost 50% for that entire game in Game 2. I mean, it's like, once again, pick your poison, and thankfully Kyrie Irving has played super well without having to answer questions about like a flat earth or being an anti-Semite or whatever he's done in the past. Dallas doesn't have as big like of a basketball media market. They're Cowboys people. I would even say that they probably root more for the Rangers than they do the Dallas Mavericks, And the Stars are in the playoffs right now as well, or they were for the NHL. So people have kind of been distracted. It's just allowed Kyrie Irving to essentially come in and play basketball with Luka Doncic. And that, along with I've been huge on Daniel Gafford this entire playoffs.
Oh my gosh.
Whenever they need a basket, they just throw it into Gafford and he gets one.
Oh my God.
And sometimes he started him off in the first quarter, keeping the offense going until the flow gets in it, and Luka and Kyrie can start hitting shots, or if it's PJ Washington that one particular night, as it's been the past few games in the playoffs, so be it. But Dallas has been really good when they've needed to be, and it's surprising that Minnesota hasn't gotten at least one win so far. I mean, you just boil it down to that one last-second shot. But with Ant playing as well as he did in the series before,
Mm.
you would have thought, yeah, they probably are going to win one of these games at home by 10 or 15. But nobody else stepped up besides Naz Reid off the bench. What are you going to do? Rudy Gobert, he's Defensive Player of the Year, but if you give the space up at the end, then who's going to remember what you did during the game? Nobody. They're going to every single person's going to be asking, why didn't you stuff that shot at the end? And I'm not sure if you could put it on him. Nobody can guard Luka, and he's as good as Dame, if not better than getting space. He is literally one of the best space creators in the league for himself.
Yeah, no, and we talked about, the Celtics and peaking at the right time, right?
Yep.
Just being the best team at the right time. That's what Dallas is doing right now. Listen to Luka's last few games since Game 5, after he lost Game 4. Since Game 6, after they lost Game 5. You lost in the loss. Luka had 18. He still had a triple-double, 18, 12, and 10. But then in a win against OKC, 31, 10, and 11, 29, 10, and 10, 33, 6, and 8. The last game, 32, 13, and 10. This dude is incredible. And on the other end, Anthony Edwards, the star of the Timberwolves, has regressed since that 44-point kind of explosion that he had against Denver. It hasn't been great for Ant. And I think when you look at the scores of these games, like the first game they lost by 3. He had 19. Second game, they lose by 1. He had 21. They've lost by a total of 4 points. If Anthony Edwards plays better in any of those games.
Yeah.
So his last few games, he's spouted out all of Luka's numbers and the greatness. So he had 27 in Game 6 against Denver, then 16 in the closing game, Game 7, 19, Game 1, 21, Game 2. One guy is getting better as the playoffs are kind of going forward. Anthony Edwards is seemingly getting worse. 5 for 17 from the field, 6 for 16 from the field, 6 for 24 from the field. These aren't superstar numbers right now. So I kind of said he's gassed a little bit. He's clearly a little more tired than the first couple rounds. But Luka, for as bad as his body is built, Luka's gotten better. And he's gotten stronger. Kyrie knows what he's doing because he's been here before. He's been deep in the playoffs. Remember, Kyrie was on those Cleveland teams that went to the finals like 5 years in a row, 4 years in a row. He was on that team. He was the number 2 guy on that team. So he knows how to play in this situation. And I just think right now, man, you mentioned Gafford and Lively and all those guys from Dallas.
PJ Washington, Derek White. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a list of 10 dudes that can actually affect the box score any particular night.
And when they come in and they play their part, they're going to win. Like, this team is so confident. They got Derek Jones Jr. shooting threes.
That's who I meant, not Derek White, Derek Jones Jr.
Derek Jones Jr. is shooting
Freudian
threes for them. Like, they're so confident in what they're able to do, and they're so deep of a roster. Man, you again, Gafford is giving you 10 to 16 a night. Lively's coming off the bench giving you 14 a night. Like, when you have those guys that are able to do that outside of your superstars that are going to give you 20 plus, I think Minnesota's in trouble. If Ant doesn't play better, Minnesota's in trouble.
No, we're looking.
This series is probably over.
Yeah, we're looking at a Dallas-Boston NBA Finals most likely, which that would be.
I'm with that.
I would say more.
Kyrie going back to Boston to win a championship.
Yeah, more entertaining in the league office's mind than a Denver-Boston series, just because of the number of eyes. I feel like Dallas being the bigger market with Luka Doncic. I'm not trying to knock Nikola Jokic at all. MVP probably should have won it in the year that he didn't. Like, it's just a
Denver's
bigger
not
media
fun.
market, and
Denver's not
Dallas
fun.
Mavericks are
And
more known.
I'll be honest,
so,
Denver's
to
not
NBA
fun
fans.
to watch sometimes. Like, and it's crazy because it's not like they're not exciting at points. They're just not.
They trudge through the mud to get the
It's
win.
San Antonio Spurs, Tim Duncan basketball. Like, it's good. They
It's
win,
fundamental.
but it's not like super fun to watch. And I really think that's why everybody kind of latched on to Minnesota, because we didn't want to see another Jokic run to where he wins a championship and acts like, oh, I just want to go home. Can I go home now? Like, I won. I got your championship. Can I go now?
Well,
could you imagine the party it's going to be if Anthony Edwards at 22 wins a championship? How different that narrative all of a sudden becomes if he does that? Like, so I think everybody was behind that idea, but now probably not.
Well, with their team being built, the Timberwolves to specifically handle the Nuggets. I mean, you got basically the two towers with Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, and then Naz Reid, and when he's on anyways, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who the Blazers could have had on their roster, but decided to flip him for Elijah Hughes. I digress.
Elijah
Hughes in that CJ McCollum
the
trade.
hell's Elijah Hughes?
Exactly. He was a Blazer for I think the last 2 months of that season when they traded CJ McCollum to the Pelicans, and he came back in that deal through the Utah Jazz. They had Nickeil Alexander-Walker on their roster briefly, but swapped him for Hughes from the Jazz. Essentially, he was like a 19, 20-year-old that, they were taking a flyer on, and they took the wrong flyer on the wrong player because Nickeil Alexander-Walker, when he's on,
story of our lives.
Yeah,
man.
he's
story of our
shots for
Blazer
him.
lives. Like, we took the wrong guy.
Well, yeah, but
that's pretty much, we've got a terrible picker. Like, I mean, like, we just attract the wrong player every single time. Like, we're like somebody looking for a relationship, but we have a type and we keep going for that type, and that type keeps burning us. And
it's like this type
why can't I find love? That's what we are as Blazer fans. We're just we're never gonna find love. And it's crazy to look around at all of our, let's just say all the players in our, all the teams in our division are like our exes, and they're doing amazing, right? Our ex in Denver is doing amazing. Our ex in Minnesota is doing amazing. Like, our ex in Oklahoma City is doing amazing, and we're still waiting to find that one. So that sucks. So that's tight. Someday, though. Someday they'll be like the Timberwolves, but ultimately, just to wrap that up, with the Timberwolves being built to try to beat Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets, Freudian slip there. Everybody wanted to root for the Timberwolves, absolutely. Right.
So it was kind of easy with Ant obviously having the resurgence in the playoffs because he's been good, but really, I mean, scoring 30, 40, and then basically the comparison, the next level up after that resurgence to the Michael Jordan comparison. That conversation kind of ended for Denver at that point. But now, coming up against Luka and Dallas, they might just be a little bit deeper than Denver. Might just be a little bit deeper.
Well, Game 3 is tonight at, what time is Game 3 tonight?
5 o'clock,
5 o'clock.
TNT.
TNT or Max if you don't have cable. So, actually, that's something I want to talk about, man. We come up second hour. Still want to talk about the best and worst players in the playoffs. I still want to get to this House versus NCAA, which is huge historic news for college. But now some more historic news is we might be losing one of the best sports shows ever made next year. We'll talk about the impact culturally and what that means for us moving forward. That's next, second hour, Sports Sunday, right here on The Fan.
Hey, it's Suk, Vulcan Design.
Man, sports is sportsing out here, man. Sometimes not necessarily a good thing, man. But then again, depending on who you are, there is a good thing. So I don't know. Where do you want to start first, Schulte? There is a lot of things that involve sweet moolah that are kind of affecting that will affect how we see sports, how we view sports. So,
I'm interested, I think, to start this off with the NBA on TNT conversation.
Okay,
and the possible loss of Inside the NBA. And, well, not possible. It really seems to be like day by day more of a sure thing. So I don't know. Why don't we dive into that and kind of maybe talk about how the channel that the game is on or like who's announcing it affects our viewership? Because I do think, to a certain degree, especially like with our local teams, it does affect it. So.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So if you hadn't known, Warner Brothers is the parent company for TNT, Discovery, all that jazz. And I believe their contract expires with the NBA next year. And so now they're looking for new places to put, for the NBA to go. So we know about streaming services. We know it'll probably be Netflix or something along those lines.
Netflix just got 2 Christmas games for the NFL.
There you go. So we know that Netflix is probably arguably the most streamed, site as far as the most streamed app as far as like watching things and everything like that. So now that they got football, everybody's got their attention, so Netflix can offer some big money. But with that, you might be losing one of the greatest sports shows of all time, which is Inside the NBA. So apparently the NBA is asking for $2 billion to keep the contract, with TNT. That's $1 billion more than they've actually got before. I say you fork that over because we know you have it. And for the opportunity to keep the show that continues to win Emmys for you every single year, a show that has the most outspoken, face in sports media right now in Charles Barkley, next to a Stephen A. Smith, next to, I don't know who else would be, the most outspoken
Shannon
at this point.
Sharp, Skip Bayless is kind of on his last leg.
It's a short list of guys, and Charles Barkley is definitely one of the guys. Actually, in 2023, he just signed a 10-year extension to be on Inside the NBA. If that goes, Inside the NBA initially started on TBS, which is also a Turner network, which is owned by Warner Brothers. It's since morphed into this long thing. It's been on for almost 30 years, bro. Did you know that?
That's correct. I mean, I'm 35. It's nuts to think that I feel like Ernie Johnson has just always been a part of my life, and lo and behold, he pretty much has.
Ernie Johnson.
It is so cool to see that.
Absolutely. It started with Ernie, and then they added Kenny, and so it's Kenny and Ernie, and then Barkley got added in like 2010. Not even that. I want to say like 2002 or something like that. They added Barkley 2000, somewhere around there, and then after that they add Shaq. And Shaq has been there for like 14 years.
Shaq's so funny.
That's crazy, like, to think about the fact that Shaq retired right around 2011, 2012, and then since then he's been a part of Inside the NBA. Like, it's been that long. There's no other show that's this fun, that's this funny. It gives us sound bites. They've been giving us sound bites every week during the basketball season for damn near 20 years. Funny things. Gone fishing is something that we say now because of what we see on Inside the NBA. They've been able to be vulnerable with us. We saw, when Ernie lost his son and, those guys rallied around them. There has been some serious things. We saw the whole George Floyd thing, and we saw Kenny Smith, say that my former protesters, I'm not doing the show tonight. Like, we've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, the funny, the kind of sad, like all that jazz. And I don't feel like there are many shows out there that are authentic like that. I feel like Stephen A. is playing a character on TV. That's how I feel. I feel like Shannon Sharp is playing a character on TV. I feel like these guys are just being themselves up there. And I think that's what makes the show so incredible. And so really Warner Brothers has got a dilemma. So they either fork over more money to the NBA to keep a deal on the table, or end an almost 4-decade-long relationship with the league.
Yeah, essentially, NBC is clawing to get the NBA back.
Then we get the music back.
Which
Round Ball Rock.
we would get Round Ball Rock. However, it sounds like it's going to be the trade of Round Ball Rock for Inside the NBA on TNT, and that has been appointment viewing, Rashad. Essentially, what you just described, every emotion that we feel is just unmatched by any other pregame or postgame show of any sport that we watch here in North America. And when we tune in to NBA on TNT, we know that we're getting a fun, authentic experience.
Right.
And it is something that, I mean, even if you're just the general basketball fan, it is appointment viewing, and there's no other show like that. So to lose something as impactful, I think, on sports fans across many generations. I'm 35, been watching it since I was a kid. My dad enjoys it, Rashad. Like, my uncle enjoys it. My buddy that's like 22 coming out of college enjoys it. There's so many generations that, in this world of media right now and streaming versus terrestrial, trying to get to the eyes of young kids is almost impossible. Well, Inside the NBA still actually does it. As you say, the Gone Fishing, send them to Cabo, like all of these fun.
Send him to Galveston. When Shaq when he said that, I
send him to
died,
Galveston.
man. It's like, these.
Yeah, Charles Barkley talking about the Pelicans earlier this offseason.
But Charles Barkley talking about San Antonio.
Playoffs, yeah.
Like there's little things. I ain't been to Minnesota. Bring your ass. Like those little things.
Exactly.
It's not something you get on ESPN
No.
a lot of time. I think there's a level of comfort that players have with those, with that crew of people.
Yeah.
And just to put into context for other people, Warner Brothers has the rights to March Madness, along with Major League Baseball, NHL, and NASCAR. And most recently, they acquired college football playoff games from ESPN.
Yeah, it's like a sublease deal. So they're getting the college football playoff, but there are a couple of games, but they're going to essentially trade off and lose.
Yeah, but
the NBA
really,
on TNT, which is that's not an equal trade.
The NBA is like, we know March Madness, the tournament is a huge deal, but that's a Halloween store. They do business for once a year and then they kind of go away, but MLB, nobody watches in April, May, June, for the most part. NHL, still a huge sport. NASCAR, huge down south. The NBA is still the crown jewel.
Their biggest product.
This your biggest product. So I think you have to do whatever you can to hang on to them and try to figure out a way that you can make this work. So it would be a cultural meltdown if Inside the NBA isn't on anymore.
I mean, I agree with you that Inside the NBA needs to stay. However, unfortunately, what we're going to be looking at is essentially a decision by the suits, trying to equate the money that it's going to take to, the cultural backlash that they're going to see. And people, may initially, I'm not going to watch TNT for like a month or two, but they will still turn it on. It's still going to be in people's streaming packages and cable packages. However the hell you watch, it's still going to be there. And if something of note is on there, you're going to watch it. And executives know that. And I'm not trying to bag on people watching sports. Like, I get that. My point is that unfortunately the backlash is going to make no difference to any of these suits that make this decision. We're talking billions upon billions, and frankly, we are kind of at the apex in terrestrial TV versus streaming, where now we're starting to, Rashad, 20 years ago, it was every league getting billions from every TV network for their product. The NFL with CBS and Fox paying them billions, and the NBA getting ESPN and TNT to pay them billions. Essentially now we're starting to see, I would say, a little bit of, it's like we're still going to pay the same amount of money, but we're going to pay it in a different way. And that means we've got to advertise ourselves in a different way as ESPN, and that means putting ourselves on an app, getting an ESPN Bet thing going, and in that, we're not going to see as many options available, unfortunately, because there's options out there for sports viewing, but as far as prime time options or like appointment viewing pre and post game shows, the ABC basketball stuff with Stephen A. Smith, nobody cares.
No one cares. Malika and all those guys, Perk, like no one cares.
And if executives were smart, they would be going for those entities in these conversations. However, It's literally the product of the league. And for some reason, this show isn't being included in the Inside the NBA on TNT product. I honestly was shocked when I heard all those guys saying, I'm not leaving. I would think that they would go to like an Inside the NBA on NBC. You know, if they're taking the rights, NBC is from TNT, and that's what's going to happen, you would think you should continue that show that way. I would assume NBC, would try to make it easy for those guys, but who knows? Like, and if they're not wanting to do it, they're not going to do it. So it just really sucks.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the way that we're seeing TV networks bid over these kinds of contracts and sports, essentially, it's just this big contraction of options that are available despite the growing availability of viewing options. And we're now, Rashad, because these leagues have to compete in a different way, we're going to see some of this good stuff go away. It's not going to there's not going to be more options. There's going to be less.
Oh, that sucks, man. So big decisions to be made by Warner Brothers, and hopefully they make the right decision and we can keep our beloved Inside the NBA. So coming up next, talk some more money. House versus NCAA, what that means, how that affects college football moving forward. We'll talk about that next right here. Sports Sunday on the Fan.
Aloha, it's
10/20 Sunday, Memorial Day weekend, 3-day weekend for most of us.
Yeah, happy Memorial Day out there.
Absolutely, man. Happy Memorial Day, man. If you're remembering your loved ones, man, people from your family, people who fought for this country, whatever the case is, man, we salute you. We tip our hats to you, man. Happy Memorial Day.
My dad always does a good job on Memorial Day of watching the graves of the family. He's really taken up, that duty for the last few years. Like, just God, it takes like dedication to go do that, and I'm always impressed with people that have family members that do that. And seeing my dad, like, he makes it a priority, to go do that. So happy Memorial Day to everybody, and good on you, Dad.
It's crazy that these things, like, there's not someone who works at the cemeteries that goes out and cleans these graves off and stuff like that. Like where my brother is buried, like, it's always dirty. I'm like, man, nobody ever comes and cleans this stuff, like power wash it, something like that. But
that's why my dad, he wants to offer the personal touch, and this is his way of, the earthly representation left of that loved one. It's like, hey, I love you, I care about you, and I want want you to know that.
Absolutely. So happy Memorial Day to everybody, at least as we get there. But hopefully you enjoy your weekend. Somebody who's definitely enjoying the weekend over the last couple of days is anybody that plays college football, or anybody that's planning to play college football or college sports in general. Yeah,
or even played college sports back to 2016. I think
played in the last 10 years. You're entitled to some bank, and you're probably going to be getting paid soon. A historic day in college football. In college sports. I got to stop saying that. The Power 5 conferences and the NCAA Board of Governors voted on Thursday to accept the settlement of 3 antitrust cases that create there's a new process. There's a new structure basically now for college football. There's a lot of confusion around it for now. I think that nobody knows what's going to happen, but it is historic. More than $2.7 billion in back damages and new revenue are going to be going to these schools to be able to pay their players. College players are officially now being paid by the colleges they attend. Not an NIL deal. That's something totally different. This is an actual check coming from your actual school to play whatever your respective sport is. I assume most of this money is going to be going to football, depending on which college you're at. I can imagine more money, like if you're Duke basketball is always going to outweigh Duke football. So I can imagine some places are going to get, some divisions or, departments are going to get more than others. But this is crazy. Amateurism in sports is officially over. These are now professional athletes. They will be paid for not a scholarship, not a stipend. They will be paid for their labor and the things they do.
As they should have been.
As they should have been.
20 freaking years ago.
We've been saying it as sports fans. Like, we see the colleges raking in hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases based on, you play in the bowl games, or you play, if you're lucky enough to make it to the playoff and you get a chance to be in that, like
the growing TV deals
deals, all these things. Like, we know the Pac-12, Larry, what's my Pac-12 commissioner? Stupid guy.
Well, the old one, Larry Scott, or George Kliavkoff? Yeah, Larry Scott.
Was asking for $5 billion for the Pac-12, network at a point. And it's like, man, for what? What do we need that? What do you need that for? Pac-12 network sucked. Let's just be real. Like, it was never anything good on it. Did you ever find anything good on Pac-12 network outside of Pac-12 After Dark?
No. Pac-12 network, they had a really good opportunity to like fill it with programming, each day. Here's a breakdown of this team. Here's a breakdown of this upcoming matchup. We've got a weekly Pac-12 show that we could put on, or
not
none
$5
of
billion,
that.
not $5 billion, excuse me. Like,
none of that.
Yeah, but they're asking. He was asking for a lot of money for TV contracts, and like, you see the money being pulled in. We've seen it for years, and now all of a sudden college sports is changing. And so my question is, I think the coaches' questions, what does this mean? Like, do I have to do we have a salary cap now? Do I have to pay everybody? Like, do I have to and do I get to decide what I get
Yeah.
to pay? And mind you, like you said, guys from 10 years ago, up to 10 years ago, are still going to be expecting some type of check. So how does this work? And I think that's the big question right now that has a lot of college football fans like us a little not confused, because while it is an awesome thing to have happen finally, right? It should have happened a long time ago. What does this mean? Like, are we going to start seeing bidding wars for recruits now?
I mean, we already are.
I mean, but now it's like really on the table. It's like, well, Oregon offered me $4 million, but Alabama's offering me $5 million. Can you match it, or can you do that? Like, all of a sudden, things are going to start shifting for players, for coaches. Like, how a guy like Nick Saban, he retired at the right time, the absolute right time, because there's no way he would have been able to really.
He couldn't handle this. And you wonder,
because these kids shouldn't be getting paid in his eyes.
And you wonder if, like, Clemson's Dabo Swinney is really sweating.
Yeah,
because he has absolutely refused to build talent in the last few years through the transfer portal, maybe until recently when he's really been forced to, but even still.
Always has been.
He is willing to take the $10-20 million check and thinks that his guys are amateurs. Now, you ask, what does this do? I mean, first, it accomplishes two things. The $2.8 billion essentially is the total amount of money that I believe is going back to all of the players that are going to be paid for their past appearances in games, and they're going to use a formula. It's going to be like the number of snaps that you took, times the number of years that you played divided by. It's going to be an interesting formula to make that actual amount, for each individual player. But essentially, this accomplishes paying past players, which should have already been done by the NCAA, something that could have been done for much cheaper by the NCAA. If they had literally just, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, said, all right, we're going to give guys, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. We're not talking obscene amounts of money for the entire roster here. And I don't think, I'm not sure everybody can quantify it as like, okay, what are we just making, like $1 million each down the roster? No, of course not. The guys like Bo Nix, the guys like Dylan Gabriel, Troy Franklin are going to be getting the cash. The quarterbacks are still going to be getting the most money. And now, because, like we're seeing an NCAA college football game coming out again, because of the image and likeness of these players that is licensed out by these schools, they will be making a fair amount of money for that. And frankly, it saves the NCAA a ton of money making this settlement, because it could have ended up, if these ended up in court, Rashad, with individual players suing the NCAA for back pay, this could have been a $4, $5, $6 billion case.
Yeah.
So essentially, the NCAA is saving themselves money and making this happen for past players. But then the second thing that it's accomplishing is, I would say, opening up the Wild Wild West, which we already had with NIL, but now you've basically got money coming from two sources: NIL deals, which are separate entities from the schools, and then the schools themselves. So we're going to have like a base salary for every single player in college sports. And now the NIL is going to be the cherry on top. So it's like free agency, the real game. We already saw free agency in college football, specifically in college basketball, all the sports, but really that's where we saw it affecting, schools the most and individuals the most. But now the cherry on top that has just been added, Rashad, I think there are going to be massive bids for recruits. I think there's going to be battles in the millions of dollars for very young kids.
Be curious, and I'm curious, is there going to be incentives, right? So here's a student who, you won the Heisman, or you're up for the Maxwell Award, or you know what I mean? Like you made first or second team All-American. You go to the NCAA tournament and you compete in the Sweet 16, or you make it to the Elite Eight. Like, is there going to be some type of additional not back pay, but some type
like
of
a bonus,
incentive
like
or stipend or something like that they're going to get? Like,
you hit certain contracts,
and I think that's the big thing.
Money.
Like, none of us know about how exactly this is going to look as things move forward, and how this is going to impact recruiting, and how this is going to impact the overall game, what it looks like. How does it impact 18-year-old kids that are making maybe $500,000 to a couple $1 million coming straight out of high school? Like, how does that affect their ability to stay humble and hungry and still want to get to that next level. Most people, and I know we're against it and we have to break. There are a lot of people, not say most people, but there are a lot of people that play football and basketball and baseball as a way out. This is how I'm going to get paid.
Yeah.
This is how I have to take care of my family. This is how we have to do whatever. If I can get that in college and play 4 years of college football and
Set
be done with
yourself
it,
up.
do I really want to go to the NFL and do more work and do more travel and do everything? I think, honestly, if the goal for a lot of these students is to get to the NFL, to get to the NBA, to get to the Olympics, whatever the case is, like that's your overall goal. But you do that because you want to make money in some cases. If I can make money in college, especially if it's a lot of mills and especially if I can get NIL deals and stuff, like Bronny James made like $5 million for NIL, average 4 points a game. Is there really much of an incentive for me to try to go to the next level when I know if I can make this every year, $3 to $5 million a year by the time I graduate, like I don't need the NFL or the NBA. So how will this affect that product? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. So there's a lot to look out for. So this is definitely a historic time in college sports. Congratulations to all the players, to all the past players who felt like they should have been paid a long time ago.
I mean, they should, honestly, Rashad, I do know we're up against it. We should be going back to like 2000. I feel like
For sure.
The start of like NCAA football games being released and linebacker number 45 and quarterback number 7. Perfect example. Eric Crouch, winner of the Heisman Trophy over Joey Harrington in 2001, right? He was an amazing college football player, was all over the television in his junior and senior years in Nebraska. Like, when you talk college football, Eric Crouch was in the conversation. He was and he was a quarterback. He was a 6th-round pick.
Receiver.
Yeah, as a wide receiver to the St. Louis Rams at the time. Mm-hmm. So my point is, the dude had no pro football capitalization and no pro football earnings, but the amount of money that he now in today's system could have made is
set
huge.
him up forever. There's no need for me to go and change my position in the NFL. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. There's a lot coming up. So coming up next, we'll get back to this thing, man. Most impressive and least impressive players in the playoffs. We'll talk about that. But first, Schulte of Sports.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals going the way of the Boston Celtics. They get the road win over the Indiana Pacers, 114-111 the final. Jason Tatum going off for 36 points. Jaylen Brown helping out the win with 24. Moving on to the Western Conference Finals, Game 3 set for tonight in Dallas between the Timberwolves and Mavericks. The Mavs a 2.5-point favorite as they hold a 2-0 series lead, taking that bat home. Tip-off is at 5 p.m. on TNT. In baseball, the Seattle Mariners losing their second game in a row to one of the worst teams in baseball, the Washington Nationals, 3-1 the final. They're trying to salvage one today. Patrick Corbin and Brian Wu on the bump. First pitch in just a couple of minutes on Root Sports. And a couple of other games on the MLB scoreboard in action right now. The Dodgers battling the Reds in Cincinnati, though the Reds lead that 4-0 in the bottom of the 5th. And top 6, the Tigers doubling up the Blue Jays 8-4. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte at the 1080 The Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Tired of getting dinged by subscriptions? We won't send you a bill. Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
Need inspiration? Shop Fred Meyer for over 30,000 mouth-watering choices with savings beyond low prices, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump. More savings and more inspiring flavors make Fred Meyer worth it every time. Fred Meyer, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Save big on 12 packs of Coca-Cola, Pepsi, or 7-Up. Select varieties or buy 2, get 3 free with your card. Fred Meyer, fresh for everyone.
Memorial Day weekend. You know what that means.
No work on Monday.
And the start of the summer season.
With all the summer sales this weekend, Look at all these ads.
I know, but there is one store we really should visit.
Why?
To check out the new TVs from Samsung and LG and Sony.
Aren't those expensive?
Not this weekend. Video Only has huge deals on the new models.
It's Maroon 5.
No, Calvin Harris. Close.
Who?
Calvin Harris.
The hell is
He's
Calvin
he's a
Harris?
DJ. God, there's a song that he did that I know you know. Oh
I
God.
don't know this dude.
How deep is your love?
Key Sweat?
This is what you came for. He did that. He did the beat for that one.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I know it's like you've heard a couple of his beats, but yeah, he's I believe he is just a DJ.
Oh, okay. Well, shout out to that guy.
But
you know?
yeah, there you go.
So, man, watching this postseason has been really, really, really fun, man. Like, the postseason is always the best time, more so than even in football, right? Like, the NBA postseason creates new stars. You know, if you hadn't got a chance to really see some of these guys play throughout the year, the playoffs come, and now you get a chance to watch multiple games of a certain player. I know a lot of people that have never really seen Donovan Mitchell play. Until he gets to the playoffs, you're like, oh, hell, Donovan Mitchell is nice. Like, so I'm curious to know from you, Schulte, which players have you watched that you're like, oh, yeah, this guy's got it?
I mean, PJ Washington Jr., seeing him hit threes for the Mavs has been really inspiring. I like watching, like the third or fourth option, have to step up in a big playoff game. And we do see guys like really have their coming out parties during this time of year. Another big one for the Mavs in particular, Daniel Gafford, Ben Shepherd, for the Pacers. Just a lot of these role players that I feel like are stepping up and having bigger games than, we really expect them to in the moment. That's exciting for me. Obviously, Anthony Edwards, the crazy surge of his talent that now everybody knows about. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for the Thunder, having some really good games and just leading that team. They're still young. I don't think anybody's disappointed or mad that they went out so early. Their fans know that this is a team that's still building and frankly
Right.
is probably here earlier than a lot of fans thought that they would be.
I think they're right on time. Honestly, I think they're right on time considering it was you make the play in, you get a little better the next year. Like you've been slowly drafting your Shays and Giddey, and then you get Chet who got hurt.
Oh, I have something to say about Giddey on the other side.
Of course,
though.
man. Like,
No, it's not even his. Continue.
Like,
when we have
like
the
the
worst
thing?
players in the playoffs, he's on my list.
He definitely, was on that list of players that weren't great. But for me, Andrew Nembhard has been so much fun to watch. He's a guy that I'm not sure what his contract situation looks like, but if he is a free agent or if he is in the next couple years, he's about to get paid, because when you show up like this in the playoffs and you hit big shots to win games in the playoffs, you're definitely due for a big payday. I remember one year from Minnesota, there was a guy named Troy Hudson, and Troy Hudson had an amazing series against the Lakers. And or not, was it the Lakers? I can't remember who they played in their playoff run, but he was so good that the next year he got paid big money. Didn't really do much after that, but if you perform well in these playoffs, you can really get paid, and we can potentially see a star being born. I mentioned earlier Jalen Brunson a few years ago, in the playoffs with Dallas, and then, fast forward, Jalen Brunson, I don't know if there was a more fun player in the playoffs to watch than Jalen Brunson. Until he got injured, until, you could tell he was kind of hobbling a little bit, and playing for Tibbs is tough. He's going to run you into the ground. You're going to play defense. You're going to dive on the floor for loose balls. You're going to do all that stuff. You're going to put your body at risk when you play for Tibbs. And any player that's ever played for his Timberwolves or his Bulls, they will tell you the same thing. But to watch the way he competed throughout every single game, to watch the way he scored, what he's going to do, but you still can't stop it. Like, there's something to be said for that. And so
he's on his Nembhard's on his rookie contract, by the way,
he?
still. So he summer of 26 is when he gets to hit free agency for the first time.
Forget he's a rookie. So
no, he's gonna be getting paid just off of this series alone. He probably like a minimum $15 million salary minimum.
Okay, that's legit. Some other guys, kind of disappointed with. He was hurt, but man, the Clippers really could have used healthy Kawhi, and
well, a lot of teams could have used a healthy Kawhi over the years.
Well,
Rashawn.
and I'm just saying, I don't think they lose that series if Kawhi is healthy, but I think it brought a lot of questions in for a lot of people about Kawhi. Is he really as great as we gave him credit for? We got to be real. There's that Warrior series in Toronto. A lot had to happen for that Toronto team to win. KD had to go down and come back and go down again. Clay had to go. Remember, Clay was cooking before he got hurt in that game. And he got hurt, and then everything pretty much went south for that team. And what do you know? They lucked into a championship that year. But since then, Kawhi hasn't really been the same player. Still very good when he's on the floor, but he's almost never on the floor. He did play a bunch of games this year, but when they really needed him in the playoffs, that was pretty disappointing.
I'm just struggling to understand why people are still even wondering if Kawhi Leonard's the guy or not, because he had issues in San Antonio wanting to play, and now once again in Los Angeles, we're seeing the same exact thing.
Well, I think he couldn't play in San Antonio, and they were trying to force him to play, and he was like, man, I'm still hurt. But play through it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Game 3 of the playoffs, like if you're hurt or you're injured, I think is the real discussion. It's like, how hurt are you, Kawhi?
We saw how hurt he was. He wasn't able to move. He wasn't able to play defense the way he wanted to. He had no lift on his shot.
Okay.
Like, he didn't look like the Kawhi.
But he couldn't have gone out there and been a decoy for 20 minutes. I mean, Damian
That's all
Lillard, Damian Lillard literally hobbled around on one Achilles for that overtime. And when Chris Middleton led the Bucks over to the win, I can't remember who they were playing at that point, but Dame just sat there for 5 minutes. He still gave the effort, and I get it. If you're going to put yourself at risk, you don't want to do that. But I think that there is the air air of concern around Kawhi that he just doesn't want to give 100% effort. When you're injured, I get it. But he still has never pushed through that narrative of, oh, I'm the guy that doesn't really want to play. He never has.
I mean, when you got 2 championships and a Defensive Player of the Year award, I think Kawhi has one of those, does he?
I don't know about the Defensive Player of the Year. If you think that, you're probably right.
I'll look it up. I don't know. Probably not. But man, when you have his resume and when you've won championships with 2 different teams and been the Finals MVP for both of those teams, it buys you a lot of leeway. You know, it buys you a lot of grace. You know, and so I think with Kawhi, you have to give him some grace because you know when he is healthy, he's great. I think he's one of those dudes like he's just negotiating his contract. I can only play 60 games. I can only give you 60 games. If you want me to be the best me, I can't play 82 games. You know, it's just kind of the way my body's set up, the way my knees are set up. I can't give you that.
Then he should be making 75% of what a year salary that he would be making is.
Maybe.
That's ridiculous.
Maybe, you know, I think that maybe, but again, maybe that preserves him for the season. Maybe you have him during this deep playoff run because the playoffs are different. We know this. The playoffs are different. They're more physical. You know, it's more of a chess match. It's not checkers. During the league, you can catch a team slipping, you know, but in the playoffs, you've studied this team. You know exactly what to expect. You know exactly how to adjust. You know how to make those changes. It's different. And if you don't have Kawhi on the floor at that point, then the Clippers truly had no chance. James Harden, the first couple games, had to be Houston James Harden for them to be able to even get those dubs. When he wasn't Houston Harden, they weren't very good. Paul George is also one of those guys he can be disappointing. Playoff P is not a good thing. Playoff P ain't a good thing. Paul George averaged 19.5 points in the playoffs. That's not superstar-like.
Yeah.
We need more from Playoff P. So, okay, well, I don't want to – we can go more and more about all these people that have frustrated me or some of the people that have made me smile. It's been really fun watching T.J. McConnell play at certain points and watch the things he was able to – it was really fun in the first round to watch Paolo Banchero really go out there and kill the way he did. It's like,
Jalen Suggs hitting some key threes for the Magic as well.
That Magic team, if they can stay together, they're going to be nice in the future.
Jamal Mosley, fourth in Coach of the Year voting. They've got a good young core there. Absolutely.
Yeah, you know. Playoffs today. Game 3, 5 o'clock on TNT or on Max, which is how I'll be watching it. And, let's see if Minnesota and Anthony Edwards, who's really on this list of disappointments over the last few games too, needs to do more. You need more than 21. You need more than 19. You need more than 18. Or 16. You got to go out there and be great and win this game.
Let me add quickly, I believe that the biggest disappointment of this playoffs is Josh Giddey for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he is your shooting guard that should be hitting a couple of threes at minimum every game, at minimum, at least able to keep your offense moving. He can't, and the fact that he's not able to play well, at this point, and even play well enough.
He wasn't even on the floor at points.
Exactly, and play well enough to stop the conversations about him, stooping an underage girl.
Yeah,
the fact that we're still talking about that months later, as opposed to what he's doing on the court. Yeah, most disappointing playoffs go to Oklahoma City Thunder's Josh Giddey.
Hey, that's not the award you want to win, but congratulations anyway. So, coming up next, man, let's tie a bow on it, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right, Sports Sunday on the Fan.
A lot goes
Tomorrow is Memorial Day weekend. So you are gonna do some grilling tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to figure out. I got some frozen trout in the freezer. I got some burgers.
Ooh.
I got some steaks. Try to see what I want to.
Kind of vary it up. I like to do a nice. If I can get some salmon, on the grill or something like that. Just
absolutely.
I like to break it up
salmon.
a little bit. I'm not I love steak and I love chicken and all the stuff. Sometimes a nice piece of salmon, maybe a cedar plank if you have one.
Yup.
And, some lemons and whatnot can go a really, really long way.
I usually do my salmon dill and lemon and butter. Just keep it simple.
Real simple.
Tiny bit of salt though. And oh my God, yeah, that dill in salmon, there's no flavor better.
Yeah, that's a game changer right there. And so, what about? Are you a sides guy? Can you pretty good with your side dishes, which is equally as important to the barbecue
that's absolutely. You gotta have fries. You gotta have some sort of vegetable. Like I love asparagus, so we'll do asparagus on the grill or. We'll probably just do this on the stovetop if we do it, but Brussels sprouts with bacon, that's a pretty
100%.
popular one in our house.
Absolutely.
So.
Brussels sprouts, bacon, and for me, a steak, that's a perfect dinner for me. Brussels sprouts and a steak, like, let's go.
Well, and I'm pretty simple. Just give me, like, some lettuce. Like, I'll just do a salad with, it's Ken's, like, cheesy Italian, like, zesty dressing or whatever. Like, I love that and I will just pour it on some lettuce, and I got a meal.
I have a confession. I don't know if necessarily, but I am not a cheese on my salad guy. I hate it. It's
really?
Like, I think it's gross. I don't see, like, cheese and egg and, like, even certain meats like ham. Like, yeah, I'm cool. Like, I don't need any of that. Like, I do enjoy, like, a nice spicy ranch if I can find one, jalapeno ranch. But
okay,
for the most part, like, I am not a cheese on my salad. So I hate Caesar salad. And, I'll
Dang.
hard pass for me.
I love Caesar.
Hard pass for me. No, thank you.
I mean, I'm all about, like, I guess because of COVID and, like, germs, people don't really do this anymore, but, like, the pizzeria open salad bar.
Oh, man.
I believe, like, in Lincoln City, Gallucci's is one of the only places that still has one, and you can get the eggs,
Old
I
school.
pile on the
I
cheese.
love
Dude,
those.
it's old school.
So,
I love those, and I love all the
after,
accoutrements.
baseball games and stuff like that.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
as a team,
yeah.
you go out to one of the last Pizza Huts that was here,
Yeah.
had a dine-in, spot. So we could just go ahead and go to the salad bar, like, with the red cups. Like, that was an experience. Like, honestly, you bring up a point, like, COVID took away one of my favorite things, which was buffets in a lot of cases. Like, some buffets never recovered.
The inner fat kid in you, Rashad, I love you.
Hey, man,
I love
listen,
buffets.
I am a huge buffet guy. Like, for me, and I catch a lot of flack for this, but Hometown Buffet was like my favorite. It used to be Old Country Buffet, and
yes,
they changed the name
back in the day
to Hometown Buffet, and that's a go-to. Their breakfast, their omelet bar, man, please. Let's go.
That slaps.
Like,
we're
seriously,
done.
Like, you talking $10 for breakfast for as many omelets as I can ingest, please.
I gotta go Izzy's. Back in the day, dude, Izzy's pizza
Oh,
and a whole
and a
Izzy's pizza and a whole lot more.
Yeah.
Oh my
Listen
gosh.
To that, listen to that harmony there.
Yeah,
Okay.
we could do
I
a
see
gig.
you, bro.
Hell yeah, I see you.
Izzy's
Oh.
was a great one. We had Pietro's Pizza.
Yes, I love Pietro's.
Yeah,
we had one in Salem, or we
yeah.
still do, I believe, in Salem.
Yeah, I think
as well.
there's one in, I want to say Milwaukee or
Yeah,
near
that
Milwaukee.
sounds right.
I think that's the last one. But man, go in there and play video games. I'll tell you about a place that you probably don't know much about. There's a place called Farrell's.
I don't think I've ever heard of Farrell's, no.
Farrell's was on like 16th and I want to say it was Weidler or something like that. I think, yeah, Weidler.
Okay.
And it was like a ice cream parlor and stuff like that, but it had video games and food and burgers and coolest place ever. It had like a whole candy bar to where you could find like little. It was awesome, and that was one of those things in Portland. Like, if you had to be there to see it, man. So definitely missed that. Man.
Give me an Izzy cinnamon roll right now in my mouth.
Oh,
with the soft serve at the end of your meal.
Is Izzy's all gone though? They're all.
I think
gone
Izzy's is they've been dead for
They have the little
years.
steaks you could get too, like at a point, man.
Oh, you're right. Jake the Hater on YouTube says he's a Chinese buffet guy. Also,
absolutely.
very underrated
100%.
buffet. Yeah.
Depending on where you go, man, there's some good ones. So,
absolutely.
Well, man, it is Memorial Day weekend, so hopefully all of you have a safe, happy Memorial Day. Think about the ones that you love that you lost. Go visit the ones that you lost and everything like that. Make sure you really keep them in.
Go clean their graves.
Yeah,
Go
make
do
sure-
that.
Let's keep them in your memories today and tomorrow as we celebrate life and everything. But Schulte, thank you, man.
Love you, Rashad.
Love
Thank you,
more,
man.
Appreciate you and appreciate all of you for joining us today. We'll be back. Well, most of us will be back next week. I probably won't because I'm getting married on Saturday. So
Congratulations,
I'll be
my
in after
friend.
that. Thank you so much. I'll see you there.
I appreciate you.
And I'll see y'all when I get back, man. Y'all have a good weekend. Peace.